dream if you can be becoming. You can look in my palm and see the storm coming. Read the book of my life and see it overcoming.
We are live. Welcome to the Author's Corner. I am super excited, and you can see I am pumped up. I have best-selling author, co-author Lawrence Stokes in the house with me, and I am super excited because this is a topic that is dear to my heart. And Lawrence and I were talking at backstage in regards to the importance of men and the role that they play in our lives. So welcome to the Author's Corner. My name is Marissa. I am your host. I'm the editor-in-chief of the Own It magazine and CEO. And I have again with me the best-selling author, co-author, Lawrence Stokes. And he is, what's the name of your book, Lawrence?
The name of my book, or the title of my chapter, is the Grief Through His Eyes, Seeing Grief from His Perspective.
Yes, and we are super excited to have him today with us because it's all about the men's perspective, the male perspective. I have a big question, you have. We are in the Author's Corner. We have some folks in the Author's Corner that are already published authors, but we also have those who are new, who have not published a book, who may be sitting on the fence about writing a book. What was the major thing that made you make the decision to write your story in this collaborative work? Because this is a collaborative book. It is an anthology, and it's filled with men and their stories in regards to the trials and tribulations that they have faced through grief, loss. And the visionary author is Deborah. What made you decide to, become transparent? Because when you tell your story, you're putting yourself out there.
I saw a post that Deborah-Frye had put on Facebook because her husband and I used to be stationed together about 40 years ago. So we reconnected, and I saw a post that she put initially about the project, and I kind of hemmed and hawed on it because I'm like, that's fine. But then she kept encouraging me. She said, you got grandkids, you got children, you might want to leave them a legacy. And I've never been one to really tell my story because it's so deep to me, and that's a side of me that no one knows. But once she encouraged me, she said, "Come on, you should do this." I said, "Okay, fine." I did it, and I'm glad I did. And once I sat down to write it, it just flowed from there.
Absolutely, because writing cuts both ways, right? Writing cuts ways through to the reader who is receiving it, and also it brings healing to the one who's writing it. I can remember publishing my very first book. I was really excited because, I'm passionate. We talked about that in the backstage. I'm very passionate. I didn't realize I'm an advocate for the underdog, just a go-getter. But I'm telling you, on my ride to my first book signing, I freaked out because the reality of the fact that I wasn't just sharing this with friends. There are people that are going to buy your book, who've already purchased your book, who are going to read your story that you don't know. And you don't know what they're going to say about how you specifically handled your problem or your grief or your loss or your situation, and if they're going to judge. And so it's courageous to become an author. It takes a lot of courage to do it. But it brings healing. It brings healing to you because now you own it. And this is what I mean on the Own It platform and the Own It culture and the mindset of Own It. It's all about owning the good, the bad, the ugly, and different. And when you do, you're set free. And so talk about the legacy of this, because remember I said, men are the head. I'm crazy for Jesus. I believe in God's order. You guys are the head. And when you guys start getting healed and you start getting it right, we'll see our homes healed. We'll see our communities healed, and we'll see our land flourishing. And so speak about legacy. When Deborah said to you, this was just not about you. This is about your kids, your grandkids, and the lineage, the people that are in your family line that have not even been born yet.
Right. See, for me, I'm the baby of 7 in my family, and I was the only one who had gotten my father's entire story from age 16 to 17 before he passed for an entire year. He and I would sit and talk every day when he got off work, and he just told me his life story from the time he was a little kid up until he married my mother. So it was a conversation that we had unknowingly. That it wasn't anything specific that I was asking him. We just talked, and I guess me being the last one home, he just talked and he shared this whole story with me. So for me, I wanted to have something that because my kids have never met my parents. My grandkids have never met my parents because they passed long before they were born. So I wanted something on paper that they can read, and they kind of heard my story, but I couldn't give it to them because they were young. I couldn't really give it to them as raw as I put it in the book, because
Wow.
when I wrote it in the book, I wrote it as is. I didn't edit it. I didn't even reread it once I wrote it, because I just told the story. And part of going through my graduate studies, I kind of write as though I'm talking to the individual. And a few people that have purchased the book have said to me, I can hear you talking to me. So, but what I will tell you, what's kind of I don't want to say, I don't want to say ironic, or I guess I don't know the word I'm looking for, but those that have purchased the book, I kind of feel that vibe, a different vibe from those that they know me. But now it's like, well, how do I approach you? How do I, I'm still the same individual. My story's old, but I'm still the same individual. It's just that I've always had the ability to compartmentalize and keep separate my feelings, my hurt and grief away from anything or anyone that I come in contact with, because that's not their issue. So you get to see and know me, but you don't need to know that side. And if the opportunity presents itself during conversation, I may share bits and pieces of it, but that's a side that I've always kept hidden.
Yeah. That's self mastery, where you know how to separate the two, intentionally, not unintentionally, because you understand what belongs where. And so I want to back up a little bit, because you talked about sharing with your children, but sharing it
Mm,
restrictively, trying to give it out to them in pieces. So
mm,
so as to protect them, not so much as to protect yourself, but really to protect them. I want to say this: men secure our identity. So fathers secure the identity of the children, and men also secure and balance the women, right? Because again, you're the head, so you give us that balance, you give us that permission really to just go out there and really be who we were meant to be. When I say that, when I say your wife, your wife, you secure her identity, you make her confident fully so that she can unleash her full potential. I say this, and when you were speaking, it was like, men secure our identity. If you guys are lost, then we are lost. Our identity is lost. And if our identity is lost, we're unstable. And that's why we're not performing well in life. And when I say that, I say our children and the wives and the family members. Like, we need you guys to be so strong, and not adding pressure, but being able to come up under you and support your position in our family structures. And again, I go back to our communities as a whole. You talk about writing, and when you wrote, you said you didn't hold back. It seems like there was an unleashing happening. Could you talk a little bit about that? Like, what was going on that you just said? I think it was authenticity, but you
mm.
share what it was. What was going on in you that you just said, the heck with this, I'm throwing it all to the wind. I got to speak my absolute truth.
Well, I've always been the type of individual that I'm going to tell you, it is what it is. This is the story. I couldn't lead up to it. I couldn't write it in a way to kind of play up into it. I had one of the first people that purchased my book where I work at. She was an intern, and she said to me, she said, you kind of just ripped the band-aid off, you know, and she said it was tough to read because there was, I call it straight no chaser. This you
Mm-hmm.
get it as it is. Just straight no chaser. Okay. And when I wrote it, the toughest part of writing it was the first paragraph. And once I got past the first paragraph, it was if the rest of it flowed. But I will say, once I completed it, it exhausted me because it brought me back to a place that I have not visited in so long. And yeah, the memory's still there, but I had not visited those events. And so once I wrote it and put it put it on paper, outside of maybe changing punctuation, I did not edit it. When I sent it to Deborah-Frye, this is what it is.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
and
that's it. Go ahead.
and so when it comes to like sharing my story, even with my kids, I go back to the conversations I had with my dad, and I watched him. Now, granted, let me share something that's not in the book, and a lot of people really don't know. My father was what you call a functional alcoholic, but I knew one thing I could say about him, that no matter how he came home that night, that man always got on his knees to pray. And he
Mm,
was always up at old dark 30 in the morning, off to work. He never missed a day of work. He had hit poles, he done smashed cars, but he was at work every day. And so for me, I saw that. And even though, what I was going through as a child, he never abandoned me, and I never went without. So for me, I had to have that same strength for my own kids, even though some of the things I was going through. But I had to also show them that in the midst of me going through what I'm going through, although they'll never see it, they never saw it, they never saw me manifest it in ways of drugs or alcohol or anything like that. I had to remain strong for them because I knew that they would be watching me at some point. And if they ever come into a situation that they're going to have that same strength because they're going to have people rely on them as well.
wow, wow, wow. It's interesting when you talk about your dad and the side that you got to see of him, even though he's a functioning alcoholic. My dad abused my mom,
Mm,
uh, you know, but I never saw that. The only way I knew about his physical abuse was from stories of family members who share with me later. But
mm,
otherwise, I never got to see. He was my hero. So
right.
mentally, the I got to see the good part of him, and just like you said, you got to see the part of him that said, even in my worstest state, so to speak, I will kneel and get and surrender and honor the Lord because I
Mm,
know he is. So in that there was some sobriety, right? That he was
mm.
still aware inside of there. So that was it. And then you shared too how you felt exhausted afterwards, right?
Oh
Be-
God, yes. I was exhausted. I actually, once I finished it and I closed my computer, I took a nap. I had to. I literally had nothing left. I had nothing left. It was a. I've never had that feeling before. It's almost like a. And even though I did cry while writing it, it was that good cry. And once that was over, I was just totally exhausted.
Mm-mm. I'm gonna address that, but I want to give our audience a chance to kind of chime in. Good morning, Wendy. I'm so glad you're in the house with us. Thank you for chiming in. We have a couple of Facebook listeners in, and straight no chaser. That's me too. It was just like, I can't fudge. Like it's the truth or it's not, right? I'm
Yeah.
not good I have no political savvy. That's why I've never been good on the debate team. My dad was see, this is what I'm saying about it's so important for us to share our stories because we never
Mhm.
know who out there we're meant to bless, to free,
Right.
to let, to unleash. And so I want to go back to the part where you said how you were exhausted. There's a couple of things that I would like to share. And because you carried it for so long, you know how you carry, like, you know how if you're anything like me, when you are getting anything out of the car, you want to take all the bags in at one time, that one trip. But by the time you get into the house and you take all of those bags off your arms, you are exhausted because you've carried it. You've had to carry it. So you've carried this story for such a long time. And then also, too, when you're pouring out and you're ministering to other people, you're exhausted. Christ even went away after ministering to the multitude. He had to go away and be restored. And so now that and God, this is a continual process. So we know and we hope that we're going to hear more from you. But it's because now that you're empty, now you have to be filled back up for the next and for the next and for the next. And so I just wanted to share, like, oh my God, that is so, that's how you know you had something to give. That's how you know you had something to pour out, and that the people are going to receive it, those who take the time to receive it. So for those of you who are just chiming in, you're trying to figure out what the heck are we talking about. We are in the Own It Magazine's Author's Corner, and we are live with our featured author, co-author of The Grief Through His Eyes. And Lawrence Stokes has, give your chapter title again.
My title is Who Told You It Was Grief?
And wow, and what does that mean? What do you not, without giving your chapter away, talk to them, like, you know, because that says a lot, because people will say, everything is relative, right? So what your pain is, someone else may dismiss, not realizing that, hello, you may not see it this way, but this is mine, and I see it this way. And so share a little bit about what that means, your chapter title.
For my chapter title was really the only title that I can frame my chapter around, because my grief started at age 8. So at that time frame, like most people who may experience grief, no one really tells you or could tell you at that young age what grief is, how to grieve. So as I was writing it, that's the only title I could give it, because see, no one told me. I didn't really realize or understand what it was until 10 years later. When I was hit with grief once again. And that's when I knew, okay, then that's what it is. Because that hit me just as hard. It hit me hard 10 years prior, but 10 years later, it hit me just as hard, but I was more cognizant of who I was as an individual, and also becoming a man, a young adult in this world. So I knew then what it was without no one having to tell me. I found out for myself. So I couldn't, no one could frame what grief was to me, because I realized what it was on my own.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to figure it out on your own. That's the complexity, right? Because some folks may not get it, because we feel like we don't talk a lot about emotions, and we always dismiss them. Like, you should, tough it up, be strong. It's okay to say tough it up, but you got to get it out. In order for you to move past it, it's just like everything else. You eat, you discard, right? You eat, you discard. If you drink water, you're sweating, right? So what goes in must come out. And so the thing that we fail to do is allow people to have the space to have the venting conversation that is required in order for them to be healed and to go on and to be tough and to hang on and get it done. You have to get it out. So you have to have a safe space that's non-judgmental, that is full of listening, so that you can just, not problem solving. Sometimes venting is not about someone coming along and telling you how to solve it.
Right.
It's not. It's about you recognizing that you're going through something, you talking about what it is that you're going through. So just so that you can get it off your chest. It doesn't mean that somebody has to explain it to you. So figuring it out yourself is a good thing. We just need to open up the floodgates so that people can vent without people shutting them off before they get the conversation out.
Right.
You agree with me?
Right. I agree. And growing up in the neighborhood that I grew up in, there was a lot of kids and a lot of friends. So a lot of times you come out the house and you had to hide it. Whatever you was going, you had to hide it because, even back then, kids was cruel. We so you had to really learn. I think then that's when I learned how to compartmentalize because I didn't want you to know what's going on with me because you ain't gonna crack on me and you ain't gonna, make fun of me or whatever because I come out the house crying or you're crying, whatever. They couldn't see that. And I think what's funny is that a lot of my friends that I grew up with who live near me, who may have purchased this book, didn't know that story because I never said anything. I never said a word. Oh, I was outside playing sports. We play in the dust, we do all that, but they never knew because I kept that to myself because you had to. So pretty much I've been in survival mode since age 8.
Yeah. Wow. That is so, it's so interesting but a lot of how you survived and how you navigated through life has a lot to do with your personality.
Mm-hmm.
It has a lot to do with your own preset of traits.
Mm-hmm.
And how you process things. It's a personality trait because for the life of me, growing up in my house, people would have thought that I was always happy,
Right.
that I never went through anything.
Mm-hmm.
They look at me today and say, oh, she never struggles. But I'm going to
Exactly.
tell you, I just don't wear it.
Mm-hmm.
The point of the matter is that I just don't wear it. I don't come out and wear things on my person. But it does not mean that we don't go through. It does not mean that we've not had challenges, and it doesn't mean that we don't feel
Right.
things as well, and feel the lows. Our personality type and our personality traits just allow us the ability to not allow one thing to hinder us in another area. And so
Right.
that's amazing. That's amazing. We want to welcome Wesley Webb. Thank you for chiming in this morning and visiting with us and joining in the conversation. And survival mode since 8 years old. Wow. I mean, we are learning. We are a people that are resilient.
Mm-hmm.
We have a lot of resilience in us. And just, again, I have to say, for those of you just chiming in, we are just going to just let you know you are in the author's corner. We are talking to co-author of the anthology Grief Through His Eyes. The visionary author for this anthology project is Deborah Frye. And we're just having a conversation about grief and how Lawrence has taken care have navigated through it. And if you want to see his story, you want to read, you want to purchase the book, you see it on the ticker tape. I did drop it on the comments, so it should be down in the comments section of the YouTube Live. We're YouTube Live and Facebook Live. You should see the comments. Get connected to Lawrence Stokes, read his story, follow him. We know he has more to come, right? We know you have more to come. And so are you thinking about writing anything else?
Actually, after I wrote my chapter, I went ahead and just wrote my entire autobiography.
Woo!
That took me about 2 months because I sat down every night for about 2 hours and I just wrote. It from that point I felt compelled to do it. It was like this chapter was only a snapshot. So you can't have a snapshot without the entire story because you want to know what happened next. Where did you go from here? How did you survive? How were you able to navigate? How were you not insane or how are you not, or, what kind of vices did you pick up, or anything like that. So some people may be curious, and they want to know. And I have no problem, and have never really had a problem sharing my story, because it is what it is. It's me. It's what makes me the individual that I am. I've always been a firm believer that no matter what it is I may be going through, I will not and have not projected that onto anyone else. That's not your issue. If we meet, we're good. You know, I have no need to try to let my story affect the individual that I come in contact with. So I wrote my autobiography. Uh, it's and that's another one that I have not edited. I just told it as is, and I'm done. I'm done. I'm just, I guess, waiting to move it forward.
Yes, yes, awesome. So when will that be available? Is it available already, or when will it be available?
It's not available. Yeah, I've been talking with Deborah-Frye to see if she's going to guide me through this one, just as she guided me through the chapter. But it's done. If I get the green light, I just have to really send it to her.
Right. Wow. Wow. Well, awesome. We are believing God for that. I want to see the whole book. I'm super excited about reading your entire story, because it is a different perspective, different story, but we can all relate to it. And just so excited to have had you here again. Is Grief Through His Eyes is the book. It's a bestseller, and the visionary is Deborah Frye, and the co-author that we have spotlighted today here in the Author's Corner is Lawrence Stokes. Lawrence, will you just give us some of your closing thoughts?
I would say that you're not alone. No matter what it is you're going through, the book is a story for the book has a story for everyone. It may not be for everybody, but there's a story in that book for everyone. It's you have to know, as we walk this path, and I want to use the analogy of a highway. You have an entrance and an exit, and some people will get on with you on the entrance, and then some will exit. But it's you that have to continue on this journey, and you just continue on. Yeah, I mean, you have to believe that if you haven't reached your purpose yet, it's coming. Yeah,
Yes.
it's coming. So just keep going forward. Don't put yourself in a position to where when that blessing comes through, you have to run back and fix what it is you didn't take care of while you were at that point.
Oh, awesome, awesome. Great words of wisdom. We are so excited that you have joined us. It has been a true pleasure. Looking forward to having you back again. Looking forward to having you back again and again and again to share with us, especially when you publish your autobiography. We're looking forward to that as well. And welcome to the Own It family, because once you're on, that's it. You're stuck with
I,
us.
I thank you for having me, and I am so honored to be here. This is something that's beyond my wildest imagination. I never dreamed something like this could go as far as it did, but I'm grateful. I'm truly grateful. And I thank you.
Yes, and we're thankful for your story and being transparent, and being a living epistle. We need to hear these stories so that we can be encouraged always in our walk, never to give up, faint, or cave in. That we are pressed through the mess to get to God's best for our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, we are out. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you in the future.